And good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Tuesday morning edition of Hey Scotty Mac Live. And if you're watching us live on Facebook this morning, good morning to everybody. If you're watching a recorded version of the show, perhaps later in the day on this Tuesday evening, or perhaps you're listening to our audio-only podcast at heyscottymac.podbean.com. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening. Happy Tuesday. Hope your Tuesday is going to be great, or hopefully it was great. We've got so much to talk about this morning and talk with you about, and of course it's all college football after an amazing weekend. And we want to get started by first asking you, if you are watching on Facebook live or the Facebook recorded version, make sure that you go and hit the like button and hit the share button for us this morning. We would greatly appreciate that. Just hit the like button or the share button. And then if you are perhaps listening to us on our audio-only version, follow us there on our page. If you go to heyscottymac.podbean.com, that's heyscottymac.podbean.com, you can see our page there. You can follow us so that you know when we go live, when we have new shows posted, whether it's our weekday show, whether it's our Friday recruiting update, or perhaps our Saturday morning college football kickoff. So all of those things and more just by going to our page at heyscottymac.podbean.com. That's Podbean, B-E-A-N, heyscottymac.podbean.com. So I want to thank our sponsors this morning that have do so much for us, including our friends at Bayou Bill's Crab House, located at Inlet Beach and Santa Rosa Beach. Those amazing folks are just incredible. Their food, I mean, my goodness, the crab, the shrimp, the fish, even the gumbo and the fall-off-the-bone barbecue ribs at Bayou Bill's. We talk about the crabs and the ribs and stuff, but you got to try the stuffed shrimp at Bayou Bill's. It is fantastic. Bayou Bill's, they take that fresh, big old guff shrimp and they stuff it with the crab meat stuffing and then broil it, and it is out of this world. You've got to try that. So check out our friends at Bayou Bill's Crab House, located at Inlet Beach and located at Santa Rosa Beach on Highway 98. Also, our friends at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport in Niceville, right there on John Sims Parkway across from the Sears and the Pep Boys. Handguns, rifles, shotguns, hard-to-find ammunition, plus silencers. They are the premier silencer dealer in the area. They carry all sorts of silencers. Did you know that silencers are legal in the state of Florida for not only recreational shooting, but also legal for hunting? Yeah. Just go by and see our friends at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport in Niceville, and they can get you all set up. Also want to thank our friends this morning at my-pak.com. That's my-pak.com. Those incredible backpacks. People are still ordering them. You know, if you went ahead and bought a different backpack for school, that's fine. No worries. But your kids start wearing them out and they start wanting something different. Well, check out my-pak.com. That's my-pak.com. And check out those amazing backpacks. And the thing we love about them is that clear little window up front where you can print out whatever you want to print out on your computer and put it in there, whether it's a sports team, a photo, information for your child so that if their backpack gets lost, they know where to return it to. All those things and more. Plus, with all the devastation at Houston and surrounding areas in South Louisiana, and who knows what's about to happen in South Florida, Central Florida, or even here in the Florida Panhandle with Hurricane Irma. Go ahead and you can go online to my-pak.com and order a handful of backpacks to help out kids who lost everything in the storm. So go to my-pak.com and check those things out there. I know that you will. Thank our friends at the Destin Commons, over 100 stores to help you find anything and everything you want. It is the premier shopping and entertainment facility here in the Florida Panhandle. Also, our friends at 98 Barbecue. 98 Barbecue is some of those beautiful, award-winning, mouth-watering pulled pork sandwiches. Their pulled chicken sandwiches are amazing. Their brisket, their ribs, their rib tips, and every Thursday, Barbecue Nacho Thursday. Check them out Santa Rosa Beach on Highway 98. Also, want to thank our friends at Local Catch Bar and Grill, Blue Mountain Beach. Want to thank our friends at 723 Whiskey Bravo in Seagrove for all they do for us. Want to thank our friends at Acme Oyster House with their 2 locations, one in the Baytown village of Sandestin, which will be closing at the end of September, and moving out there to join the new store, which is already open at the Seascape Golf Course entrance there on Highway 98 in Miramar Beach. So go check them out there. So, boy, what a great weekend of college football. And we're going to go over all of that and more this morning. Remember, if you've got questions or comments, there's a couple of ways for you to join us here pretty easily. You can either, and don't do it in dry, but you can type in here on the page on our broadcast your questions and comments, and just say hello to us. Let us know where you're hanging out with us from this morning, your city and state. That would be great. We would greatly appreciate that. Also, if you want to text us, the text line for the show is 850-460-0326. 850-460-0326. We would love to have your comments and questions and things of that nature. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter account is at HeyScottyMac. That's at HeyScottyMac, and that's a good way to keep up with everything we have going on, even during show hour, not non-show hours, I should say. So check that out there. And again, go to our new Podbean page. It's heyscottymac.podbean.com. That's heyscottymac.podbean.com. Well, before we talk a little college football this morning, all eyes on Hurricane Irma, which is now officially a Category 5 storm. This thing is bearing down on the Leeward Islands and headed straight toward the Caribbean, and then who knows from there. I think our friends in Miami and South Florida are very concerned right now, and quite honestly, I'm very concerned for them. Whether the storm turns at some point and goes north or gets out in the Gulf, nobody knows. It's anybody's guess right now. So if you are watching this morning, we actually have people who check into the show through Facebook Live down in the Caribbean. Some of our friends, please be safe down there. If you're in South Florida, the Keys, oh my goodness, please be safe there. And anywhere really in the state of Florida and along the East Coast, boy, keep your eyes peeled because it's going to be a very nervous week. This is a very powerful storm. And our friends at the National Weather Service, NOAA, the National Hurricane Center, are all keeping an eye on this thing. And we just hope everybody is safe. But have a plan. We've already talked about our plan here. You know, our show will continue from somewhere, somehow, some way. But nonetheless, so just have a plan, know where you're going, know what you got going on, and so that you're not caught off guard. So just know what's going on and help your neighbors. Check on your neighbors and make sure that everybody's good to go from that point. So we haven't had a storm of this magnitude in the United States for quite some time. We haven't had a storm here in the Florida Panhandle, period, in quite some time. So we've been very lucky. And we'll see if Irma is going to be headed our way or perhaps a different way. But it's going to be a very nasty storm, so just get ready. Well, what a weekend of college football. It wrapped up last night with Tennessee getting a double overtime victory over Georgia Tech. That came on the heels of that incredible comeback by UCLA over Texas A&M on Sunday night, which was just unreal. Of course, the Alabama-Florida State game was one that had all the hype and for the most part lived up to the hype, except late, but Alabama continuing to flex its muscle. The Florida Gators, a very disappointing trip out to Dallas, Texas. And there are things to talk about in there as well. Miami opening up with a big win, as did LSU over BYU, as did Auburn, plus a handful of other schools. And let's just start from last night going backward and give you some of our impressions of what we saw this weekend and some of the things. Last night, Georgia Tech was cruising right along. Tennessee had no, plan. It had nothing working that would stop. Truthfully, it had nothing working that would stop Georgia Tech's game. We told you all week last week it is going to be very difficult. Very, very difficult for Tennessee to stop that Georgia Tech attack. And they were able to figure it out there late and come back and get the double overtime victory. A very nice win for Tennessee, considering that I had picked Tennessee to really struggle this year, and I still think they may have some struggles, but I was a little more impressed with Tennessee last night than I think I probably would have been otherwise. But Tennessee with a nice win last night, 42-41 in double overtime. Then on Monday night, another great game. Number 21, Virginia Tech beating number 22, West Virginia, 31-24. Boy, those two teams are pretty evenly matched. You can't say enough about that game. You hate that either team had to lose, but that was just a great ball game. And then Sunday night, that incredible UCLA Texas A&M game. Texas A&M was up 44-10 in that ball game, and then all of a sudden it turned, and UCLA scored 35 straight points, including the game winner with less than a minute left, as UCLA came from behind to beat Texas A&M 45-44. And here's the thing. Kevin Sumlin is toast. We said going into the year that Kevin Sumlin was on a very hot seat, as was Butch Jones. And now you've got Board of Regents trustees out at Texas A&M going on their Facebook page and Twitter page saying that Kevin Sumlin needs to be gone. Kevin Sumlin is done. Short of winning out, running the table at this point, which would include wins over LSU and Alabama and others, I don't see any way Kevin Sumlin keeps his job out there. I think you're going to see Kevin Sumlin out. Question is, can he stay there through the season, or do they lose a couple of big ball games along the way, and he wind up losing his job somewhere? So how about Texas over the weekend? Boy, the Tom Herman era got off with a big thud. That was if it were a fireworks. If Texas football were fireworks, it would be a big dud. Texas losing at home to Maryland 51-41. And Texas showed signs on offense that they've got this thing going in the right direction. But defensively, Texas has a long way to go. And Tom Herman said after the game, what do people expect us to do? Sprinkle magic fairy dust on this team? So I think Texas has got a long way to go. And don't take anything away from Maryland. We said last week that's a very good team. And watch out. As a matter of fact, that was one of our picks on Saturday, Maryland plus 18. And it wound up hitting for us. As a matter of fact, we went 8-1 on Saturday. It is very well documented. You can look on our Facebook page. We put our picks out to our subscribers, but then once the game starts, we put it out there and say, okay, here was one of our games so that you can follow along. The opening weekend, which was not this past Saturday, but the Saturday before, we went 3-0. We went 2-0 this past Friday night, so we started 5-0, and then we went 8-1 on Saturday. Easily documented. We're not here to toot our own horn other than say that, it happens. It'll all even out in the wash, and we hope to hit around 62 to 65%. The best handicappers in Vegas run about 65%, 64%. That's it. That's going to be the best you're going to do. Anybody telling you that they're doing better than that, they can't document it. It's easy to go on your Facebook page or your Twitter page that you buy all your Twitter followers for and post after the fact and say, oh, I picked this game. Oh, I did this game. We were 82%. Well, you may have, but at the end of the season, you should be able to document your games, and that's what we do. So we put our picks out for our subscribers only before the game, and then once the game starts, we put them out for everybody else. But right now, we started the season at 13-1, so that's pretty good. We had a handful of subscribers getting our picks Saturday morning, and I've heard from a couple of them who had incredibly good weekends, if you know what I mean. When you go 8-1 on a Saturday, that means you're 7 games to the good, and some of our folks did really well this weekend. So we call it beat the bookie. That's what we do. We don't bet on the games ourselves, but we certainly handicap them. We put a lot of time and energy and effort into that. So this week's picks, we'll have some probably on Thursday, but then again Saturday morning, and we're going to run another special this coming Saturday morning. But anyway, that Maryland game was one of our picks. As was Iowa and Wyoming. We had Iowa minus 12.5. That was an easy win for us there. Clemson with a big win over Kent State this weekend. Michigan State getting off to a good start, beating Bowling Green 35-10. It was Cal going on the road, beating North Carolina 35-30. Miami, the Hurricanes, struggled a little bit early, but got it going. They beat Bethune-Cookman 41-13 in that one. Boy, we almost hit our upset special of the weekend. We had Portland State beating Oregon State, and man, Oregon State had to pull one out of their to beat Portland State 35-32, but that was a good ball game. How about the South Carolina Gamecocks? winning in Charlotte against NC State. Will Muschamp getting it done. I wonder now if the Florida Gator fans would rather have Will Muschamp than Jim McElwain. Because Jim McElwain's a good coach, but Will Muschamp's a good coach too. A lot of people felt like when he left Florida, oh, he's not cut out to be a college head coach. And I thought, you just didn't give him time at Florida. And he's proving now at South Carolina the guy's a really good football coach. They have a big win over a ranked NC State team. Oklahoma rolls this weekend under Lincoln Riley. They looked really good. Notre Dame got it going against Temple, 49-16. That was a good one. Let's talk about Boise State and Troy. The Troy Trojans played the socks off of Boise State. Boise won the game 24-13. That was not one of our plays this weekend. Boise State was a 9.5-point favorite. It went to 10, 10.5. Some places you could get it 11, but we felt that was right on the number, and it was right on the number. Now, to the Michigan-Florida game. To our Michigan friends out there, congratulations. That was a big win. And I'm going to tell you, Michigan has got a very good football team. Don't be fooled. This Michigan team is very good, and it's likely all going to come down to that battle against Ohio State at the end of the year, which could determine which of those teams get in the college football playoff. But Michigan has a college football playoff football team. Yes, Florida was undermanned and going in. The Gators were without 10 players, including their best running back in Jordan Scarlett, their best wide receiver in the Callaway kid. So they had limited weapons, and their quarterback situation was unproven and untested. Felipe Franks, the redshirt freshman out of Crawfordville, Wakulla, looked good at times, but there were times that he looked, quite honestly, like a freshman. They stuck in Malik Zaire late in the game to try to get something going offensively, but that's a very good Michigan defense. This Florida offense, though, is atrocious. The offensive line, which we thought all summer would be their strong point, looked absolutely porous against Michigan. The play calling was completely unoriginal. The wide receivers were not crisp. The running backs did not hit the hole. It was almost like Florida was very lethargic. And I need to see more of this Gator team. But Michigan won the game 33-17, and the truth is it could have been a lot worse. I mean, Florida played, their defense played very well. They had back-to-back pick sixes. They had a couple of fumble recoveries. But the truth is, the Florida defense has got to have the offense play better, and that offense looks atrocious right now. So we're going to talk more about that here as we get along. Bad news, really bad news for Florida State this weekend. Of course, not only does Florida State lose to Alabama in a very physical, hard-fought game, both Alabama and Florida State taking beatings and players getting beat up. But, boy, terrible news now for Florida State as starting quarterback DeAndre Francois is done for the year and could be even longer after tearing his patellar tendon, which is a tendon around your knee that is not easily healed. It is not good at all. That is the worst news ever for Florida State moving forward because now it becomes very difficult. You're going to go with a true freshman quarterback, James Blackman, it appears. That's what Florida State's going to do now as they move forward. And not that Blackman is not a good football player, but I will tell you that, you're a true freshman. He's never thrown a college pass. He played a little bit the other night and did not attempt to pass. Now, the kid's got talent. He's coming out of South Florida. He's 6'5", a little thin, but he's got a rocket arm. And I always say this. I've said this ever since I've been around doing radio and even before working in college football, is that here's the thing. When there is a misfortune, and nobody likes to see injury, but when there is an injury, that opens up an opportunity for somebody else. So this is an opportunity for James Blackman to say, I've got my shot. Just like we saw this weekend at Georgia. We'll talk about the Georgia game coming up, their big win over Appalachian State. Jacob Eason goes down with a knee sprain, and the Fromm kid has to come in and play right away, and played really well. When you have someone go out, whether it's injury, suspension, whatever the case, graduation at the end of the year, that creates opportunity. And you have to look at it. So who's the next person to step up and take over? But for Florida State, here's the deal. This team can be very good. You saw a lot of bright spots for Florida State. They played the nation's best team tooth and nail for a long time, but they've got to get the offense going. That Florida State offense only had 65 yards in the second half of the game against Alabama, only 250 for the game. Now, Alabama only had 269 yards itself, but Alabama's special teams and defense just played lights out. And so, Florida State, I think, can still be a 9 or 10 win team with a freshman quarterback. If DeAndre Francois got through that game unscathed, then I think Florida State's got a good run to get back to the college football playoff, and who knows. But now it becomes a lot more difficult with a true freshman quarterback. There's some big games ahead coming up for Florida State, and including that one not this week but next week against Miami. So I know that for Florida State and Jimbo Fisher, look, he's a quarterback whisperer. He's considered the best quarterback coach in the country. And for Jimbo Fisher, he's going to have his hands full getting James Blackman ready to go. But I think that what you saw this weekend was that Florida State is close, but they're not quite Alabama. And my hat's off. I really thought Florida State could stay with Alabama. But I tell you what you saw in Alabama is the fact that this is an Alabama football team that Nick Saban talks about the system and the process. And, man, they have got it figured out. They just continue to reload. You saw guys playing for Alabama that perhaps you had not heard of before this weekend that had been waiting in the wings for some of these great players to move on. And my gosh, Alabama was just incredible. Now, here's the thing. You're going to have a lot of people say, well, Jalen Hurts is still struggling. No, he's not. I thought Jalen Hurts, he had a couple of bad throws, but it was the first game. It was the first game of the year. But he threw the deep ball extremely well, I thought. I thought Jalen Hurts, he's very efficient. He was 10 of 18 for only 96 yards, but they didn't have to throw it very much. And you got to remember, he was also playing against a Florida State defense that is really very, very good. So I don't have any problem with Jalen Hurts at all. I think this Alabama team, its identity under Nick Saban has always been you're going to play great defense, you're going to have very solid special teams, and we're going to do just enough on offense to win the game. That's what they're doing. I mean, if we're nitpicking, I've heard some of these so-called experts the last day or two nitpicking about Alabama, and I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the best team in college football. There's nobody left on Alabama's schedule, and excuse me, LSU, but you're not there yet. But as of today, there is nobody on Alabama's schedule that will beat the Crimson Tide. There's nobody out there. And these Alabama fans who crow and get all excited and they drive us all over the edge, you have every right to be excited. Man, I'm all for you. I would be excited too because there's no one standing in Alabama's way of getting to the college football playoff. Now, you get there, you've got to deal with the likes of Michigan or Ohio State or perhaps Oklahoma or who knows at that point. Penn State looked really good this weekend. So we'll see. But as far as who's on Alabama's schedule right now moving forward, there's nobody there. Now, Alabama lost a couple of key elements for the year. We told you that was a very physical game. Alabama losing a couple of their linebackers. That is a very tough deal. I mean, anytime you lose players, and I watched a little bit of Nick Saban's press conference yesterday, his Monday press conference, where he said, of course, a very difficult situation losing a couple of starters. But for Alabama, moving guys around now is going to be the key. You've got guys who will step in and will have opportunity. As a matter of fact, Nick Saban saying yesterday, back on the practice field, with Terrell Lewis and Christian Miller now done for the year, you got to move guys in there that can play. Now Jamie Mosley, Mecca Brown, Vandarius Cowan, Chris Allen, Ben Davis, highly recruited Ben Davis, LeBrian Ray. All of those guys have got to step up. And that's the thing about Alabama. That's where recruiting comes in, man. They load up. They just load up. And so you wake up and you got all these great players. So, all right, we got to take a quick break. We'll check all the connections. We're going to come back and continue talking a little college football. We got a lot happening this morning. Glad you're with us right here on Hey Scotty Mac Live. And if you haven't done so, hit the like button and the share button for us right now. We're coming right back. right, everybody, welcome back. Glad you are with us here on this fantastic Tuesday morning, which when you have that long holiday weekend, and of course you have games every day for 5 straight days. The good news is we're only 2 days away from the next games on Thursday night. So we'll talk about those obviously this weekend or this week as well. But glad you're with us. If you're just joining us, hit the like button on our Facebook broadcast, hit the share button, and we appreciate that. And if you're listening to us on our audio-only podcast at heyscottymac.podbean.com. That's heyscottymac.podbean.com. Follow us there. We would greatly appreciate that. And if you're just joining us this morning, you got a question or comment, type it in there. We'll say hello to you. As a matter of fact, let's say hello to folks who are checking in with us. Check in with us. Let us know where you're watching or listening from this morning. Type in your name, where you're watching and listening from, your city, state, all that. We'd love to say hello to you. Just quickly, we'll say hello. Good morning to LSU Melinda, who is there. Hello, LSU Melinda. She says, remember Matt Mock having to come in SEC championship against Tennessee when a late hit took out Rowan Davey? No one knew who he was or what he could do. You never know. You never know. You're right. I was just talking about this. It creates opportunity. Melinda is so right. Stephen T. Wassman says, we hung in there, Scotty Mac. Go Jags. Yes, South Alabama hung in there with Ole Miss. Didn't get blown off. Ole Miss, we'll talk about them too this week. They look good at times, and then at times they look like they were really trying to figure that out, But for Ole Miss moving forward, the schedule is only going to get more and more difficult. So just got to know that's coming out there for sure. Glad you're with us. Again, you can say hello to us here, and you can put in your questions and your comments. We would greatly appreciate it. And we would love for you to just say hello to us. We would greatly appreciate that. So it's that time of year. All the excitement's in the air. We've got the first week of college football under our belts, and everybody's so excited. So thank you so much for being a part of what we have going on. It is just a fantastic day. And again, you can text us at 850-460-0326. 850-460-0326. 0326. So don't forget a couple of quick things before we go back and talk a little college football. The Extra Point newsletter comes out this week. Be probably Wednesday night, maybe Thursday morning, but I think we'll have it out Wednesday night this week since we're getting back on our schedule. If you've not renewed your subscription or you would like to subscribe to the Extra Point College Football newsletter, simply just email me at heyscottymac@gmail.com. That's heyscottymac@gmail.com, and we will get you set up on that. For those of you who do subscribe, I know we had a couple of issues last week. Gmail doesn't, for some reason, they've put in these new control things with Gmail about marking things as spam and that kind of thing. But I think I fixed it. So what I've done is I've teamed up with the folks at Constant Contact, and so we're going to be using them to send out our newsletter, which is really cool. And we've already got it all set up, so you should have no problems getting the newsletter moving forward. Not only will we send it out, but we create a place where you can actually go and download it if you like. But if you'd like information about getting our newsletter, go ahead and hit us up on the email at heyscottymac@gmail.com. That's heyscottymac@gmail.com, and man, we will get you that information for sure. So let's quickly run down a couple other games from the weekend. How about the LSU Fighting Tigers beating BYU 27-0? How about that for you, LSU Melinda, and all our LSU friends out there? Hot boudin and cold couscous. Come on, Tigers, and push, push, push. I love that cheer. LSU looked very good defensively. Offensively, struggling a little bit. But I think that, quite honestly, they're going to be just fine. What was ironic, the last time LSU played in the Superdome, was it against Alabama in the national championship game? They never got the ball across midfield. Well, LSU's defense never allowed BYU to get the ball across midfield, which was really kind of wild. That is just a great defense over there. And Darius Geis, the running back for LSU, looked so comfortable in the new offense there. Under Matt Canada. He ran for 120 yards and 2 touchdowns, and it was just a very impressive performance for LSU over BYU in a game that had been moved from Houston to the Superdome. And this is an LSU defense, keep in mind, that's got 4 true freshmen in the starting lineup, and didn't have Arden Key, who may be the best defensive player in all of college football, and they held BYU to less than 100 yards for the game. And it was just very impressive for them. Now, offensively for LSU, Danny Etling was very workmanlike. I was very impressed. 14 to 17 passing for 171 yards. Miles Brennan got in the game, 1 for 1 for 12 yards. But it was just really a solid performance by LSU. I'm going to tell you now, I said earlier, there's nobody on Alabama's schedule that can beat Alabama today. But if LSU keeps improving and they stay healthy, get ready. And by the way, all you Florida fans out there who've been chomping at the bit waiting for LSU after that whole hurricane debacle and the game moving last year, you better rethink that. Florida does not want any part of LSU right now. They don't want any part of them because LSU will take Florida to the absolute woodshed if they were to play this week. Now, I know they don't play this week. There's time to get ready for that. But I'm telling you, LSU looked really, really good. And for LSU, so many young players, so many freshmen this weekend that just really looked fantastic. So this is an LSU team, and two, that was playing without a handful of players that were suspended for the game. And Ed Ogeron not announcing that till right before the game, saying he's keeping all of his discipline matters in-house. But middle linebacker Michael Divinity, defensive tackle Frank Heron, cornerback Kevin Tolliver, linebacker Donnie Alexander, linebacker Brakithon Mouton, all didn't even dress for the game. They didn't even dress for the game. So this is an LSU team that's going to get better and better, and they play Chattanooga this weekend. That could be a big win for LSU. But keep in mind, Chattanooga is not terrible. They're not terrible. So BYU goes home to play Utah and we'll see what BYU can do. This is not a bad BYU team. And by the way, that was one of our games that we went 8-1 in this weekend. How about that? Don't you just love that? That was fantastic. Mississippi State rolls this weekend, taking care of Charleston Southern. Mississippi State, again, that's kind of a tune-up game for them. That's just this team, Mississippi State's going to be, I think, a team that's going to give some people some problems all year long when they play. They're just athletic enough, and their quarterback, Nick Fitzgerald, is really good. And he's going to cause some problems for folks all year. I mean, he can be that good. Now, they weren't playing a real big name opponent this weekend, and they just kind of rolled from the word go. But they really needed to get out there and kind of get their format and their system going. Fitzgerald, I think, was 16 of 29, 239 yards, a couple of touchdowns. And so Mississippi State, moving forward, I think you'll see this is a Mississippi State team that go to Louisiana Tech this week, which is not going to be an easy road trip, but they should win that game. You get over in their smaller stadiums. Mississippi State has agreed to go over there and play, and more power to them for that. But I just don't see Louisiana Tech beating them over there. Ole Miss beating South Alabama this weekend as the Matt Luke era gets started at Ole Miss. As Shea Patterson just looked very impressive this weekend for the Rebels. This is an Ole Miss team that I think will beat some people this year, but they're going to have to do it by scoring a lot of points. Still defensively giving up way too many yards, giving up way too many points, but it's getting an offense is going to be getting a lot of points, so they'll have to outscore a lot of people. Georgia beats Appalachian State 31-10. That was one of our plays as well. Georgia was only about a 2-touchdown favorite in that one. We win that one straight up. Appalachian State was getting too much love for having knocked off Michigan 10 years ago. But Jake Fromm comes in for the injured Jacob Eason, which a lot of people wanted to see Jake Fromm, and you heard people saying that Jake Fromm was just as good as Jacob Eason, and they may be right. Eason goes down with a sprained left knee early in that game. Jake Fromm comes in. He led 3 first-half touchdown drives. They moved the football. I told you for the last 2 weeks that the most important thing that a quarterback can do is move the offense. Move the offense up and down the field. Move the offense. Get them going. Don't stall out. Don't go 3 and out. Quarterbacks need to be able to move the football. And you may not score every drive, but you got to be able to move the offense and give your defense a chance to rest and flip the field position. But Jake Fromm finished 10 of 15 for 143 yards and a touchdown. Looked very, very good, I thought. Nick Chubb ran 15 times for 96 yards and a couple of touchdowns. Sony Michel 16 times, 87 yards and a touchdown. I mean, you're talking about, think about this. Those two running backs at Georgia had 31 carries, right, for 183 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, you can't ask for much more than your running backs. You combine those two guys, that is as good as you're going to get. And this Georgia team, I still say, could be a real thorn in the ointment, a thorn in the side, a fly in the ointment of the college football playoffs. So I think that Georgia, you better keep an eye on them. That offense gets rolling. The defense continues to play. They play well. They only allowed 284 yards. This is a Georgia team that's going to get better and better, and they got a tough test. They go on the road to Notre Dame coming up Saturday night. So if Georgia goes up there and beats Notre Dame with Jake Fromm at quarterback, the legend of Jake Fromm really starts to grow at that point. So a big win for Georgia, and keep an eye on the Bulldogs this weekend. You know, I mentioned earlier the Miami Hurricanes. Speaking of teams that I say could wind up upsetting the apple cart in college football, and especially in the playoffs, are concerned. Miami rolls over Bethune-Cookman 41-13, and you know all eyes have been on who replaces Brad Kaya. But Malik Rozier, I'm telling you, is fantastic. He looked really good. 17-28, 217 yards, 3 touchdowns. He got it going. Mark Walton, who is a real talented running back, ran for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can tell Miami can be really, really good as they get it all put together. They're not there yet, but I'm telling you, they got a chance. They got a chance, I think, to be really good when it's all said and done. Travis Homer, who's the backup for Walton, ran for 103 yards on 11 carries. So Miami has got talent. And now, all of a sudden, that Miami game against Florida State, not this week, but next week, which is in Tallahassee, we thought, boy, that's going to be a tough order for Miami. Looks a little bit, I won't say easier, but it looks a little bit more like it could lean toward Miami's way now that Florida State's got to go with a true freshman at quarterback in James Blackman. So we'll see kind of what plays in this. But a couple of interesting things from the Miami game, if you didn't get a chance to watch it. 2 players with Miami Hurricane DNA got their first rotations and notations on the Miami stat sheets. Tight end Michael Irvin II, the son of Michael Irvin, got his first catch. Freshman Zach Fiegels, the son of longtime NFL punter Jeff Fiegels, made his debut. There were several other Miami legendary players, legacy players out there. But this Miami team's got a chance to be really good, and they proved to me this weekend they really do. Auburn Tigers, you know, we said that keep an eye on Auburn this weekend because they were taking on a team in Georgia Southern. It can be very difficult to defend with that triple option. Of course, you saw Tennessee struggle with the triple option last night as Tennessee was taking on Georgia Tech. But all the eyes were going to be on Auburn and finding out if their quarterback, Jarrett Stidham, was going to be the real deal or not. Auburn did not have their star tailback or top wide receiver for this game. They had another player go down with injury, but they rolled. They really got it going. Jarrett Stidham, 14-24, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have an interception. You can see he's got room to improve there. You can tell he was a little bit rusty. Moving forward, I think he's got a chance to be really, really good once he kind of gets more and more comfortable in the offense. So, the thing is, Cameron Petway was held out. Wide receiver Kyle Davis was held out. Backup quarterback Sean White was held out. Auburn's Gus Malzahn saying after the game, that's completely between me and them. Didn't want to comment on it. But that was a big thing that you didn't see those guys out there for Auburn. Now, the Martin kid ran for 136 yards. The Johnson kid ran for 136 yards. As Kerryon Johnson looked very good. Auburn's going to be really good when they get all their players back off of suspension and everything else. I think Auburn's got a chance to be one of those teams that grows into itself. I'm going to tell you, keep an eye on Auburn moving forward. If they continue to progress, they got a real chance. I like this Auburn team a lot. They outgained Georgia Southern 535-78 in total yards. Now, let me just say this. When you hold Georgia Southern to 78 total yards, that's something. I'm going to tell you, nobody's talking about this Auburn defense. They got a chance to be really, really good. That defense at Auburn is unbelievable. That's maybe, I got to tell you, that's as athletic as defensive I've seen. It's right up there with the Alabamas and the LSU. I mean, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina, I think those defenses in Auburn can be unbelievably good from just moving forward. I mean, to me, that's how you win. You got to have great defenses. So I just thought that Auburn looked really, really good. Now, Daniel Carlson missed a couple of field goals, the Lou Groves Award finalist twice. We've got to get him back on track, get him going. Auburn finds out this week kind of where they are when they visit Clemson. They've got to go to Clemson. And, of course, Clemson won that game at Auburn last year, 19-13. So this should be a really fun game coming up this weekend. Could be affected by the storm. That's another thing we'll be talking about tomorrow and Thursday is we got to keep an eye on Hurricane Irma, as we said earlier in the show, and find out which of these games could be most affected by storms out there. So, but Auburn, I thought, was very impressive. Thumbs up to them. We do our thumbs up and thumbs down. As a matter of fact, let's go through and give you our Thumbs Up Award winners for this week. Auburn obviously gets a Thumbs Up Award. They look very good this weekend. I got to give a thumbs up to Tennessee beating Georgia Tech last night. They get a thumbs up trophy, and this is a Tennessee team that I thought would struggle. It's only one game, but they do get a thumbs up for coming from behind, beating Georgia Tech in double overtime last night. Thumbs up for Clemson. A lot of people thought they would fall off after losing to Deshaun Watson, but they roll over Kent State 56-3. And I think you see this is still a Clemson team has a lot of talent this week on their football team. Thumbs up for South Carolina and Will Muschamp beating a ranked NC State team, getting the Will Muschamp year off to a good start. So the South Carolina Gamecocks getting a thumbs up trophy. Oklahoma, first game under Lincoln Riley. We mentioned earlier beating UTEP 56-7. Oklahoma gets a thumbs up trophy. And just because you win doesn't mean you get a thumbs up trophy, but you've got to win and you got to do it in a certain way and you got to be impressive to the eye. Thumbs up, though, to them. Thumbs up to Jake Fromm, the quarterback at Georgia, for coming in early as a true freshman and playing extremely well. Thumbs up to the LSU defense for keeping BYU from crossing midfield in that game, and just a dominating performance by the LSU defense, the Tiger D, getting it done there. Let's see here. Our other thumbs up, Vanderbilt Commodores. I wanted to mention that was one of our plays this weekend where we went 8-1. We had Vanderbilt -3. I knew this Vanderbilt team could be really good and that Middle Tennessee State was rebuilding. I didn't understand that line whatsoever as Vanderbilt wins 28-6. That game was never in doubt. That was one of our easy lockages of the weekend for sure. So thumbs up there to them. Thumbs up to the Alabama special teams and defense for getting them through the big game over Florida State. Very impressive win. Thumbs up this weekend to the Wisconsin Badgers, missing 2 defensive starters, done for the year in injury. They win, of course, Friday night over Utah State. A very nicely done performance there. Thumbs up from the weekend. I believe we have one more from our weekend. And let me see here. Let me find it here for you. I'm just checking here. Yep, thumbs up to the Memphis Tigers beating Louisiana Monroe last Thursday night. That was a game that was not as close as the final score. Memphis is a team that's very athletic. So thumbs down. It's time for our thumbs down. And by the way, thumbs up to Penn State. There was the other one. I knew there was one more that I wanted to get, but Penn State beating Akron and Terry Bowden's Zips 52-0. Thumbs down from the weekend. Thumbs down to Texas A&M. Come on, man. That was terrible. You're up 44-10. You're an SEC team. You got to win that game. Thumbs down to Texas. Tom Herman said after the game that, what do? Sprinkle magic fairy dust on these guys to make them winning? Well, that's what you're hired to do, Tom Herman. Figure it out. Figure it out. This Texas team looked uninspired, unenthusiastic, and unprepared. The 3 uns. That's terrible. Thumbs down, Texas. You should be ashamed of yourself. Thumbs down. Thumbs down to the Missouri defense. You win the game 72-43, but really you're playing Missouri State. And you couldn't stop anybody. Missouri's terrible. Their defense, thumbs down. Big thumbs down, in my opinion. They just, that was unbelievably bad. Thumbs down, Florida Gators. That offense is atrocious. The Florida Gator offense has got to find some help, and they got to find it now. And you got to get that offensive line to block somebody, anybody. You cannot play Ole defense, Swiss cheese, Ole offensive line play, I should say, and Swiss cheese offensive line. Terrible. Thumbs down, Florida Gators, particularly the Florida State offense. Thumbs down to you. Oof. All right, moving on down the line here. A couple of more thumbs down. Games of teams for awards from the weekend. Thumbs down to Baylor. Baylor losing at home to Liberty, 48-45. Are you kidding me? My, how the mighty have fallen. Boy, the whole Art Briles thing, the Baylor football scandal. You are at rock bottom, Baylor. Thumbs down to you. That's terrible. Thumbs down to UNLV, too. The UNLV Fighting Rebels losing to Howard at home. Thumbs down. Here's a little interesting tidbit for you. If you had gone into a Las Vegas sports book on Saturday morning and put $100 on Liberty plus, 43 points, and Howard plus 50 points against UNLV, and just parlayed those two. You walked up to the window and said, I want to put a $100 parlay for two teams. I want Liberty and I want Howard. That $100 ticket would have won you over $4 million. Of course, who would have done that? I mean, you would have thought you were throwing your money away. That would have been an ultimate gamble. But boy, can you imagine? Just goes to show you. But thumbs down to you, UNLV. Terrible performance this weekend. Let's see here. Thumbs down to you, Nebraska. You win the game against Arkansas State, but Nebraska's defense is just like the defense we saw for Texas A&M this weekend. Incredibly bad. Incredibly bad. It was so bad. Let's see here. And I believe we got one more thumbs down from the weekend. Let me check it here to make sure. Thumbs down to Florida Atlantic. Lane Kiffin's debut. All the hype, all the talk on Twitter, everything. They get beat by Navy 42-19. So not good. But a big thumbs up to college football in general. It is back and better than ever. What a weekend. Of course, we've got so much to talk about all week, and it was a fun weekend. All right, we're going to take our final break. When we come back, we will wrap it up this morning. Again, if you've got questions or comments, now's the time to type them in right now. Text them to us at 850-460-0326. Get those questions and comments in. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a second right here on Hey Scotty Mac Live.
Gentlemen, presenting the 235-member Michigan Marching Band. Band, take the field. Under the direction of Professor Jamie L. Nix, the M Fanfare.
And welcome back, everybody, here on this Tuesday morning as we recap the great weekend of college football. I am Scott McKinney. Thank you for being a part of the show this morning. Every weekday morning around 7 a.m., we do Hey Scotty Mac Live. Make sure you join us either live here or you can watch the video of the show later in the day or this evening here on our Facebook page, Hey Scotty Mac. Just go to facebook.com/Hey Scotty Mac and you can check it out anytime during the day. After the live show, we post the video back up here. And also, we've got the audio-only version of the show over on the podcast page. Go to heyscottymac.podbean.com. That's heyscottymac.podbean.com. And we have all the shows there. You can listen to any of the episodes and downloadable on iTunes as well. So check it out at heyscottymac.podbean.com. And don't forget, our college football weekly email newsletter comes out every Wednesday night, Thursday morning. If you haven't subscribed yet, it is not too late. We just, of course, got the season started. For information about how to subscribe to our college football newsletter, just email me at heyscottymac@gmail.com. That's heyscottymac@gmail.com, and we'll get you that information. And then don't forget, not only that we do our every weekday morning show around 7 a.m. here, but we also do our weekly college football recruiting update, usually on Fridays. And then every Saturday morning, we have our college football kickoff show, where around 9 a.m. Central Time, we go through all the games, give you our thoughts on the games of that day and the last-minute injuries and notes and things of that nature. So it's all right here. Best way to do it is two things. Like the page. When you're there on the Facebook page, just like and follow the page of Hey Scotty Mac, or follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter account is at Hey Scotty Mac. That's at Hey Scotty Mac. So what a great weekend of college football. We learned a lot about a lot of teams, but coaches always tell you that teams make the most improvement from week 1 to week 2. So that being said, this should be a fun week to kind of keep up with what's going on in college football. And of course, we're keeping an eye on Hurricane Irma. This thing has strengthened to a Category 5 now. It could affect games up and down the East Coast, especially in the state of Florida. Everything's being monitored very, very closely. This thing is nasty, and so I would encourage you, if you're anywhere near the state of Florida or the Southeast or the Eastern Coast areas, please keep an eye on everything. I was just looking at some of the games we've got coming up this week, and we've got only one game this Thursday, because keep in mind the NFL starts this Thursday, so college football kind of backs off that a little bit. But Idaho State at Utah State this Thursday. Then on Friday night, right over in Mobile, Alabama, Oklahoma State comes in to take on South Alabama. That's a big ball game. We've talked about even driving over to Mobile Friday night to see that. Friday night also Purdue will host Ohio, and then those are the three games. Thursday, 2 Friday, and then you get into the Saturday games. But I was just kind of looking, Louisville is at North Carolina Saturday morning. That game could be affected by the weather in this storm. East Carolina is at West Virginia. That's another game to keep in mind. It could be affected by the weather this weekend. Northwestern at Duke could be affected. Jacksonville State at Georgia Tech, because Atlanta could get a lot of rain from this storm. I'm going to just tell you some games to keep an eye on. Indiana is at Virginia. Delaware at Virginia Tech. All could be affected by the weather this weekend. Let's see here. Just kind of looking down the list here of games involving teams that could be affected by this Hurricane Irma in particular. Alabama State's at Troy. Marshall at NC State. New Hampshire at Georgia Southern. Let's see here. Kind of going on down. Louisiana Monroe is at Florida State. Auburn at Clemson could be a wet game and could be affected by the storm if that thing moves up that way. Northern Colorado in Gainesville to take on Florida in the Swamp. Alcorn State at Florida International. I definitely can see that game being affected. Memphis at Central Florida. Let's see here. I'm just kind of quickly just scanning through you. Those are the games that could be affected. I know Miami's got to go on the road to Arkansas State this week, so the Hurricanes will get on out of there, I'm sure. But those are games that could be affected by the storm. So just keep an eye on the weather, particularly if you're along the coastal areas, because it certainly could be one crazy week. Want to thank our sponsors again this morning, our friends at my-pak.com. Those amazing backpacks. You know, you can go online to my-pak and get those backpacks and order them and donate them to the people in Houston, Texas, or other people affected by the storms. That's a good thing to do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to grab one. Here is one of those great backpacks. You can see very sturdy backpack. Comes in a couple of different color options. But the big thing is that window where you can print out whatever you want to print out, stick it in here where my hand is, print out your kid's name, their school bus number, their homeroom teacher's name, so that maybe if they're a younger kid, it doesn't get lost. Maybe if they're a little bit older, print out their sports team logo, Florida, Florida State, Alabama, Auburn, maybe, their own team logo, anything you want, cartoon characters. These things are so cool. Boys and girls love them. Go to my-pak.com. That's my-pak.com. Also, want to thank our friends at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport in Niceville. Want to thank them for their great sponsorship. The premier silencer dealer in the Panhandle. Silencers are legal in both hunting in Florida and recreational shooting. So check them out at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport in Niceville, right across the John Sims Parkway from the Sears and the Pep Boys. Also want to thank our friends at Second Amendment Shooting and Sport in Niceville. Our friends at, I just said that, Second Amendment Shooting and Sport. Our friends at Bayou Bills, there we go. Bayou Bills located in Inlet Beach and Santa Rosa Beach. Check them out. It is absolutely the place to go get the best seafood, crab, shrimp, fish, and more at Bayou Bills on Highway 98 in Santa Rosa Beach, and right in front of the Winn-Dixie in Inlet Beach over in Bay County. Bayou Bills is incredible, plus the sports bar there where you can watch all the games. You're going to love it. Also, want to thank our friends at the Destin Commons for their support. Our good friends at Local Catch in Blue Mountain Beach for their support. Want to thank our friends at 98 Barbecue, Santa Rosa Beach, and that amazing barbecue for their support. Our friends at Acme Oyster House for their support. A lot of people coming on board to sponsor the show, and we greatly appreciate it. If you're interested in sponsoring our show and being involved in what we do, we can get you this information here. We can spread your word to a lot of people. Just simply email me at heyscottymac@gmail.com. That's heyscottymac@gmail.com. Well, have a great Tuesday. I keep thinking today's Monday, and a lot of people will. But have a great Tuesday, everybody. Don't forget, we'll be back here tomorrow morning. We may have a live update this afternoon. We're working on some things. A lot of things going on weather-wise with this storm. A lot of things going on college football-wise. So the best way to do is just not only like our broadcast and share our broadcast this morning, but also like the page, the Hey Scotty Mac Facebook page. Share the page as well. Follow us on Twitter. And don't forget about the audio-only version of the podcast. The audio-only version is at heyscottymac.podbean.com. That's heyscottymac.podbean.com. So check it out, everybody. All right, have a great Tuesday. We love you guys. Thanks for being with us this morning. We'll post the video and the audio of the show right now. So you guys be safe out there. We love you.